thing is that a lot of people have a hard time understanding is the draw to continue that addiction. You know, it's a little bit more than just trying to keep yourself from getting sick or feeling normal. There's been enough studies done that indicate that when a person is addicted, the pleasure that they get out of whatever drug they're using is greater than other pleasures. Which again is this reason it keeps calling to you and bringing you back, because you start chasing that pleasure feeling. So if we say sex is one of the highest ways we receive pleasure, when we're talking about the addicted person, depending on what the drug is, it's going to surpass that, the amount of pleasure. And that becomes a hard thing. We see it mostly with opiate addicts, is that once they get into recovery and start recovering from this, they say, I'm having a hard time finding pleasure in life. And that's the reason. And again, that's one of the reasons we keep seeing people being able to get clean for 2, 3, 4 years and then go back out and get it again. Because they haven't found anything to take its place. Okay? Now I bring that up because it's really important to understand the process of what these people are going through. You know, it's not that we're just moral degenerates. You know, it's that we all want pleasure in our life. And if it becomes hard for them to get it, they're going to go out seeking it in the means that they can. So please keep that in mind. There's several factors in taking a look at how a person becomes addicted. You have genetics. Is it in the family? And it doesn't have to be, if we're talking specifically with opiates, it doesn't have to be somebody in the family who's also addicted to opiates. That's usually not what you find, at least in our generation. It's usually the alcohol. But the addiction is there. So everybody has their preferred high. For example, in my story, alcohol was my preferred high. I was always drinking. I wasn't always doing pot, but I was always drinking. And if I was doing pot, you damn betcha I'm going to be drinking on top of that. Okay, that was the high I preferred. However, when I relapsed on pot. And I did that long enough that it took me to the point, clouded my thought process, robbed me of my logic, and brought me right back to the high that I preferred. That was the alcohol buzz, the beer buzz, to be specific. Okay, so when a person puts one thing down, they have to put them all down. Especially with the alcohol. Alcohol is known as the dirty drug because it interfaces in the brain, mimics the chemicals in the brain, all those neurotransmitters. Causes a problem. Now, okay, so you get a little addiction 101 with you for this. The next thought is, well, that's great, Michael, but what are we going to do with this problem? I don't know. Okay? I don't know. I wish I had the answers. I don't have the answers. I know some things that will help. And Jack Walsmack, who used to be our Cheshire County's administrator, is going around talking to people about 22 points to help decrease this problem that we're experiencing. Okay? And it's going to take time. We're not going to see it change overnight. overnight. So, things that you can do to protect your kids, and that's the major one we're trying to do, because part of this whole thing is going to be prevention. It has to start at home. You have to know where your kids are and who they are with. Because along with the family genetics, you also have who are they hanging with. If they're hanging around people who are, in fact, abusing substances, chances are real great they're going to abuse substances themselves. I mean, stop and think back when you were a teen, preteen. To be in that clique, to have that set of friends was all important. And if they're doing it, you join in on it. Okay? The other thing to look for is your child a risk taker, just an automatic risk taker, that increases the potential too. So you got those three things as things to look at. So that's why it's important as parents that we know where our kids are and who they're hanging with. Very important. We need to provide real, sound boundaries for our kids. And I mean really sound boundaries. And I'm sure most of you are doing that. But I'm sure, like me, you don't do it 100% of the time. But we got to try that. We need to do it more. Okay? They got to know what behaviors are acceptable, what behaviors aren't. They have to know what the consequences are for those behaviors that aren't acceptable. We need to guard our medications. We need to get that word out to everybody. I'm sure if you guys listen to the radio, you probably heard the advertisement where they say she got her eyes from her mother, she got her nose from her father, and she gets her drugs from her grandmother. That's exactly what is happening. Guard your medications. They're using it. They're taking it. They're taking yours. They're taking the grandparents, aunts, uncles, adult friends, parents of their friends. You know, if they find it, they're going to use it, even if they don't know what it is. Okay? You need to have very good communication with your doctors. What are they prescribing and why? Especially when it comes to pain pills. Those are too easily abusable. If you got kids that are on Ritalin, that's an amphetamine. Make sure they're taking it if it works, and not taking it to school and selling it, because that's going on. And as long as we're on the area of school, you need to be an advocate out there with the school systems to get addiction education into the schools. And it has to start in the elementary level. Because like I said, onset, 9 years old. What are we talking there? 4th grade, 3rd grade, somewhere around there? Does education work? Yes, it does. Take a look at the fight on tobacco products. We made one heck of a dent in kids starting tobacco products. Why? Because they couldn't put the education into the school. So the school systems already have a mechanism. All they have to do is tweak it a little bit so it's fitting all addictions. Okay? Not that one, or not just that one, but all of them. And this is a real touchy one. We got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. About 20 people in here. All right? Do the math. 12 to 15%. All right? Chances are there is somebody, at least one or two, or maybe more people sitting in this room that may have or had a problem with addiction. It's really hard to teach our kids what they're getting into if they're watching us already doing it. Okay? We can't teach what we don't do ourselves. Now, I'm not telling you all to be teetotalers. I'm not saying that. Now, most people aren't like me and have an over-fondness for this stuff. Oops. But I'm saying take a look. Take a look. And if there is a problem in there, then get help for it. You know? There's no shame. I don't consider myself a immoral degenerate. You know? It's an illness. We have to treat it like an illness. All right? We need to get back to our delegation and tell them that we need more prevention and treatment in the state of New Hampshire. We need more funding so those services are provided. Again, we used to be a leader in the field of addiction treatment. We used to be a leader. I can count 3 for our whole state of inpatient programs that we got out there. Yeah.
Okay, 3 total.
About 3 total, yeah.
Was it the federal funding? Wasn't there federal funding involved when that was the case?
To a certain level, yes.
Yeah.
But, oh dear. I was working in the field during the heyday, and there was some very not ethical people running some of these facilities. So some of it is on the treatment providers' fault that we're up where we're on. Because we literally were robbing from the third-party payers, the insurance companies. They were holding people much longer than what they really needed to. Although, to be fair, what we know is the longer we can keep somebody in treatment, the higher the probability is the treatment's going to work for them. You know, and again, it's like stopping cigarettes. It's going to take several different tries. I mean, even if I look again into my own history, I took 3 relapses before I got it. So, but we do need to contact and let the state know what we need and that we need it provided. Which brings up the Medicaid extension, better known as WellSense and Family, what is it called? Family Healthy Families. That runs out 2016. That's helping provide the money for people to get into treatment, regardless of the treatment, whether it's for chemical dependency, mental health, or physical health. If that runs out, we're going to have some problems. Like I said, the county, up until recently, was what they call the payer of last resort. In other words, it's the people that we were working with did not have insurance, did not have a pocket full of money to pay for treatment or medication that they needed to keep their mental health in check. The county stepped up to a plate and paid for that, provided that when they were with the program. Okay? With the onset with WellSense and Healthy Families, that's given us somewhat of a break. Somewhat, I say. because there are certain facilities that needed certain credentialing in their workforce that in order to qualify for these insurances to get reimbursement, and sometimes it's hard to keep those people on board. And as soon as that happens, county's back to paying for it, which is okay. Don't expect the state to solve the problem unless the communities are getting actively involved. They need to hear from you. That old adage, it takes a village to raise a child, we're back there again. Everybody's eyes and ears need to be open and taking a look at what not only their kids, but other kids are doing, and step up to the plate to help govern this. Like I say, advocate in the school systems to get these programs out there. We have a agency in Monadnock, or an agency in Cheshire County. It's called Monadnock Alcohol and Drug Coalition. Here's some flyers here on that. Here's contact information of Mary Drew, who's part of that organization. She was willing to work with communities and school systems to help bring the prevention in there where it's needed and get it organized. Yes.
Well, a couple questions. I just wanted to understand, and I'll kind of focus this on opioids, and I recognize absolutely from personal groups of friends and family the problems with addiction. But speaking specifically to opioid addiction, which is kind of a major concern with us right now, is the process, I'm trying to understand where people would go if Roger, the chief, catches them and, you know, let's just start there. They've been arrested for possession or distribution of opiates. They're going to go into the system, and let's say that part of that involves treatment. It's a requirement. Do they go through like detox and then inpatient and outpatient and then where?
It depends on what happens. The way our court systems are working now, they're going to be doing the detoxification within the jail system.
Do jails have that capability, that facility?
They watch them.
Okay. But there's no medically supervised detox program.
Every house of corrections does have medical staff there that is watching them. If it gets too severe, they will send them out to the local hospital.
So there is some level of detox.
There is some level of detox. But remember, again, nobody dies from opiate withdrawal. Get sicker than hell. They wish they were dying, but they don't.
Okay. After
3 days, they'll come out of the most severe and start tapering off again. Okay.
So what's the ideal path? Is it sort of that if we could wave a magic wand and fund all this stuff, is it more, where is it? It sounds like inpatient's completely lacking. Are there halfway houses? Are there no houses?
That's what I mean. You need treatment here.
So
halfway houses for transitional living is something, again, we used to have. We don't have anymore. There's Phoenix House in Franklin, Southeastern Services has a transitional living facility, and I think they're beginning to.
Okay.
Ketchup House might be used to. But again, that's why we need to put the bug in their ear that we need this to happen. We need to get our standard of care back up to where we need it. What we need, yes, detoxing facilities. Most hospitals won't do it. They won't do it unless you go there and say, I'm going to kill you or myself. Then they may say, okay, we'll put you up on our mental health unit. That's usually what happens. But you got to be threatening endangerment to themselves or somebody else for that to happen. We do not have the treatment facilities, inpatient treatment facilities, Now, true, not everybody needs inpatient treatment. There's other lesser sorts of care. There's intensive outpatient, or sometimes it's referred to as partial hospitalization. They will go to a program usually in the evening, but not always, but usually in the evening for about 3 to 4 hours. They're still out in the community when they're done. Okay? We do need the outpatient resources as well. Because once you get somebody, if they go through the inpatient program, now what? You open up the door and say, there, you're cured. Well, they're not cured. We're never going to be cured. It's something we have to keep a constant vigilance on. If we're not doing what we need to do, we'll slip up and get right back there, which means we need the support, which Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous are good sources of that. They watch these people, the people that come into the program. Quite frankly, that's how I got it. I went through that partial hospitalization. Then I started to go to AA. And it took a while because I didn't want to listen. You know, my head was too big. I thought I had the answers. You know. And guess what? That attitude is kind of like a young adult, and I was in my 30s when I got into recovery. But it's the same with our young adult. That's why they're so hard to treat. They think they're bulletproof. They'll listen to their friends more than they'll listen to you. Oh, listen to friends? That's why they have the recovery community, because that becomes the new friendships. And that's where the support comes. I'm sorry, if you don't have the disease, you're not going to understand it. I've gone all round and round and round with my dad. And I finally said, Dad, guess what? You don't need to understand it. I'm the one that needs to understand it. And he said, oh, okay. And that was the end of the conversation. Yes, please.
Are the success rates for NA programs similar to AA programs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I personally prefer AA. I will send the drug addict to AA because chances are real great they're into alcohol too. And the thing I find out was not all our AAs, but some of the, or NA meetings, excuse me, but some of the NA meetings, we have pushers at those meetings, that they're going there deliberately to sell the wares. I have people come and tell me that all the time. And I said, well, stop going there. Go to AA instead and see what happens. They don't run into that problem. Okay? But if a person gets out of the inpatient, they need the support. That's what the 12-step programming is all about. It's not the only way. There are some faith-based organizations out there that have worked with some of the people. But what I have found that the 12-step program are the ones that usually have better results. Okay? And some of our people, after they've gone through that, they have the basis and the structure in place. If they choose to step back from those 12-step programs, instead of going to those meetings, not going to those meetings, some of them are very successful if they have the foundation built in place. They find their support in other areas. But they also know if they start getting a little squirrely, where to go. You know, outpatient works real well with these people after they get out of either intensive outpatient or inpatient program, because they need the ongoing support. The ongoing support. You know, years and years and years and years ago, 1936, in fact, is where AA got its start. And in that book, they talk about it, alcohol, it was specifically talking about alcohol, is only a symptom of an underlying problem. And that's our thinking. It's the way we view things. So that support is needed. Outpatient counseling can help further that development and getting their feet and head above them.
Last question. Is you consider New Hampshire to be sort of a not in my neighborhood sort of environment. In other words, yes, we absolutely need new treatment centers, we need halfway houses, but I don't want my tax rate to go down. Are people resistant to that? Is that part of the issue too? Besides funding, because funding's always going to be a
You
problem.
mean because the treatment place is in that town?
Right, lower property.
Yeah,
Lower
yeah.
property values?
I came from Pennsylvania and we saw it a lot down there. You had a few towns that were willing and, okay. A few towns were willing to do it, and it ended up being with like halfway houses every other street and nowhere else in 100 miles around it.
Yeah, I believe that's
So,
the case.
I think that's the case around New Hampshire too.
That's part of the case. I'm sorry, look at our motto. You know, it's right on the license plate, live free or die. You know, don't want to hear. Yeah, we need it, but don't want to hear. But I think we're to a point where we're in pain, where we're going to have some people say, don't wait a minute, let's retake a look at this. You know, chances are, if they look at it, look at the places that do have these type of facilities, what they're afraid of doesn't happen. The crime rate doesn't go up. You know, it just doesn't go up. And in fact, I've heard in some cases where people in the treatment facilities, just for fun, go out and shovel walks and driveways of the people around them to create this, you know, community and goodwill. You know, but let me get back to this too, because there's some other things, like I said, you need to be careful of your doctors. You know, they're doing what they need to do. They're doing what they were taught to do. They're treating the symptom. Usually that's what the case is. And they're scared when they see somebody that goes into using more medications than what they are. Instead of using good sense of helping them to come back off of that and find some other alternative, lots of times they cut them off. So you really need to talk to your doctor. You know, if they want to give a prescription to your son or daughter of Percocets, okay, or oxycodone or Oxycontin, you know, and the prescription calls for, you know, 30 pills, say, can you make that 15? Or better, you ask your pharmacist, could you just give me half this medication? And monitor it, and monitor it closely. And again, keep your medications locked up, because they'll get their hands on anything just to see if it's going to get them a high.
Why aren't our doctors doing that automatically?
They haven't been taught. You know, I hate to say that, they have not been taught. I know the state now is working on with our doctors. Dartmouth Hitchcock is one of the hospitals that's pushing this, Dr. Sutton Savage, to reteach the medical profession on the correct way of prescribing these drugs. Okay? These drugs, painkillers, were never meant to be something that a person was on for a long time. They were supposed to be short for acute pain. And along the way, I think our medical staff forgot that. And again, think of what they're here for. They treat symptoms. You go in there saying, I'm hurting. Their compassion tells them, let's give them something to stop the pain. So it's how they've been taught. Most of these people, most of our doctors and nurses, if they had 2 hours on addictive medicines, on treating addicts, they're doing good. And doctors have told me this when I've asked them. You know, so
So if somebody was given a 30-day supply, say 30 pills, I don't know if it's one a day or whatever it is, would they have chances of being addicted to that at that point?
depends on the person. If the person had, me for example, because I have a history of addiction, you betcha. That's too much.
I know
And if I'm going to have to take that medications, then I'm going to go to somebody and say, here, you keep the pills. And ask me when the 4 hours are up or 6 hours are up, do you need one? So I don't, this brain here is unbelievable. You know, a place you go to every day or almost every day, let's say to work, ever experience the fact you're driving? Next thing you're going, how did I get here? And there's a span of time where you can't remember, you're on the right route, but you don't remember passing certain things. Okay? Automatic pilot. We go on an automatic pilot. The brain has been taught this is the route we take. Okay? When we start with the addiction, our brain happens to think, oh yeah, I like this. So it speeds up the process. So when you put it inside of me, my brain remembers from 30 plus years ago of what the effect is. So it will, like that, speed the process up so it gets there.
But we also know we're living in a society where a lot of people go to doctors, get the pills, and pass them on.
Yes. Yeah.
I know there's talk, I just heard the other day that they're trying to limit these prescriptions now to 3 pills.
And that makes sense.
So, I think it's common sense, you know, a doctor understands addiction, that's what, I don't understand it. You can teach them all you want, but that's pretty much common sense.
Well, they had a lot of incentives to ignore that.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the Vicodin drug reps who basically recreated drug marketing and said that Vicodin could be used for everything under the sun. It was safe for kids. It could be used long term. And then they provide incentives to the doctors to prescribe it. So now we're trying to go back on this system that we've got ingrained, and it's tough.
Trying to correct it.
Question for you guys. Do we have addiction? Anybody know Ball Mountain School District? Do we have some sort of addiction program early on?
I think there is, but I'm gonna look into it.
It may be called the student assistant provider. Yeah, better known as SAP. Seriously.
Don't they have a counselor?
Well, that's usually what that person gets.
Yeah.
It's a counselor who has been specially educated in the field of addiction. However, here again, you've got people who are students who are reluctant to go to that person. They're reluctant to see their friends, see them go to that person. And if there's some bust that comes down in school, guess who's going to get pinpointed? Generally, it's the people that are going to the student assistant.
What about the prevalence of the DARE program?
You don't want me to talk about DARE. DARE was just almost as useless as Just Say No was. We need a better program. Even the people who are usually running that program will say, this isn't enough. DARE, from what I understood and saw, was based on scaring kids more than giving them the actual truth. You know, and like I say, I've had officers who were trained in telling me this, you know, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's a good start, but it doesn't work. Again, the model we need to use is the same model we've been using for the tobacco, because we know that works. We have data that shows that. You know, other things the community, because this is a community problem, can do. Do you have after-school programs for our kids and teenagers? That's a biggie. Get them busy with something. You know, things like 4-H. You know, athletics. How about some women or girls and boys club that is also working on helping to beautify the community itself? You know, they need structure in their life. If they have structure built in, again, the potential decreases, that they're going to get involved with behaviors that we don't want them to get involved with. You know, so there are things to do, and then speaking of that, again, the Monadnock Coalition can help people start organizing those structures, both in the school system as well as within the county. There are certain programs that they have. There's one that's coming up on the 4th. It's called Hide and Seek. This lady is a professional from actually Wolfboro area, I believe it is. And she puts up a mock bedroom. Because chances are there's evidence of the kids using that are right up and out in the open that you're missing. So this is flyers for that I'll put up here. The Jaffrey Rinch Middle School is having a school parent safety talk, drug prevention, which might be a good thing to go to or to set out within your own school system. And again, the coalition will help you to do that. I'm leaving these things sitting here. I'm leaving my cards and Mary Drew's cards. Mary is the one that's involved with the coalition.
Excuse me, Michael. I know we're short on time. I just wanted to, before you left, I wasn't sure if you heard about there's a new curriculum for DARE, and they've changed a lot of things around, and
I did not.
yeah, the new DARE program it got away from the scaring kids and, actually demonstrating or showing them drugs and all that. All that stuff is wiped out of the program. I agree with you 100% that DARE alone is never going to be a replacement or a substitute for drug and alcohol counseling for our youths. High schools need that. DARE is not going to do that alone. But the DARE program is, from my experience, just gives kids an extra tool to make sound decisions, whether it be to say no to drugs, to say no to bullying, to tell on their co-students, their students that something bad is about to happen. They give them the right decision-making power for those kids to stand up for themselves. So there's a lot that they've changed a lot with the DARE program. So
I haven't seen the new version of it.
yeah, it's really
I
changed.
didn't mean to step on anybody's toes.
No, you're not. You're accurate in saying that it's not going to solve the issue, but I just wanted to say that there is a lot of usefulness there.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. So we need that. We got to attack this on all fronts. We got to attack it, starting with the prevention, starting down with the education, and walking it right up. We have to educate our doctors. Try to voice our concerns that you have with your state legislation, your delegation members, and what can you do here in the community that will minimize that type of behavior. I don't have the answers. I'm sorry. I wish I did, and if I did, I'd probably be a millionaire, but I don't. All I can say is I know this is where you need to look and where you need to start working on. And again, the coalition will help you start developing those things. Very good with that. Is there any other questions? I mean, I kind of rushed through this. And again, I was telling Jesse I'm probably not going to get a very good review on this because I don't have the answers. And I am saying some things that some of us don't want to hear.
That's why we brought you here. Is there a
Take the
community?
heat off you, right?
No, I'm serious. I mean, we echo your frustration pretty accurately, which is why we invited you to come. Somebody in the communities with a broader range of experience that can inform us. Our concern came from the community side of it, not the family piece. We have young adults in town who appear to be frequent substance abusers, and it's frightening, especially to the folks who live in the village and see all the coming and going in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So we're thrashing about, looking
And-
for not so much resources, it's just direction.
And unfortunately, in that situation, you have nothing but our police department and troopers to get involved in that one, because then it's already too late.
So is there a community that you can identify that's doing it well, the prevention piece, the education piece?
Keene is working really hard in putting it together. I don't think there's any community in Cheshire County that I'm aware of that got it together yet. They're working on it. Things like this program to educate us parents on what to be looking for. The thing at the middle school in Ridge Jaffrey Middle School, again, more information. The more information we're given, then that's where we can start putting things together for your community specifically. Something that might work in Keene may not work here. You know, this is what we're finding out with drug courts, for example. There's a certain protocol that one has to follow in order for it to be a drug court. Well, doesn't work. You know, the pieces don't all work because we're working with different people. We're working with a rural setting and not a big city setting who has more stuff to provide for them, more treatment to provide, and things of that sort. So it's like it's community. It's the you people bring your heads together as a community and saying, okay, let's try this.
Other questions for Mr. Potter before we thank him and throw him out? I do appreciate you coming and bringing me all this bad news.
My pleasure. Not ours.
There's plenty of copies of the resources here. This guy's easy to find through the county website.
And also describe it in the cards.
And maybe we want to put a little pressure on the school board to see us in a month and tell us what's going on in Fall Mountain. Is that fair? I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of our rep. I'm not very good at this. But you'll do, because you're sitting right there.
And
I'll find out.
I wanna-
I think it's important in a little school.
years ago, when this started to bubble up in the area that I was living in, that I am living in, I won't mention Newport,
Yeah, David.
I tried to get in there to put a prevention program together. They said they didn't have a problem with chemicals or alcohol.
I would have said that about this town a year ago, except for the alcohol part.
And, well, you know, and
Which one did you say said that? That didn't have a problem? Oh,
And that's when it was just starting to bubble up. So if you get that kind of information from Fall Mountain, don't buy into it. There is a problem there. I know. I had a daughter who graduated, or actually left there, because there was such a problem there. And that was 4 years ago. You know, stick with it. You're going to have to be very persuasive and very pushy. You know, that's what's going to get this moving for you and moving in the right direction. There is treatment programs out there. Claremont Counseling Center of Claremont for outpatient, as well as Counseling Center of Newport. They're owned by the same agency. You know, they're out there. So if your kids have a problem or your grandkids have a problem, start seeking help for them. Sooner we get this, then we're not going to involve the police quite so much. You know, it's, like I say, it's a community effort. And I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I do appreciate the opportunity to, you know, letting me come in here. There was a gentleman, a Jesuit priest, who was a big promoter in starting inpatient treatment programs. Father Joseph Martin, maybe some of you might have heard of him, but he used to say, you know, he used the word alcoholism, but I'm using the word addiction. It's not a spectator sport, is what he said. Sooner or later, everybody gets involved. And that's true. Everybody gets involved because it affects each one of us. Sometimes really close and personal. Sometimes it's the financial burden that comes on with somebody's use and misuse. So, feel free to call me and I'll raise the board. I'm museum.
So you want to take a 3-minute oxygen break before we dive into the budget for the PD? Does that make sense?
Do that.
Stretch. It's like baseball. It's like the 7th inning. We have to sing what do we sing? Sweet Caroline. Sweet Caroline.
I don't know. I don't watch baseball. My big, let you know I did a good job. If you don't, ignore this question.
I'm glad to have you. Appreciate it. Big shoulders. How many customers do you have?
In our lower court programs, we currently have 45 employees. In our superior court, it's
75.
Well,
and we have 46
I haven't done enough on my budget at all, but
for our circuit court program. I keep warning you. Keep up high like this, you're going to be
That's all right.
otherwise we're going to start yelling.
I like what Jack's doing on the state. I heard it. Really solid interview on it. First time. Yeah, I think he's quite a resource. You know, I've known him for a long time. This is good. He's got his facts well organized. His passion, his nature is really easy to detect now.
86 there right now.
So, I'm glad to hear you on the road show.
So high.
Is anything good for you and anything for me?
little 7-year-old.
Back in the day,
All over your life, trying to.
occasions before he went out and run the stump, trying to push this and that, the education piece. One of the things. So I'm glad that he is, and he is, this isn't going smooth, it's just.
Do you have an extra?
Yeah, I do. I just made more of this.
I've never heard anybody say anything.
That's why I just went to make more. Probably got a lot. Yeah.
Good guy. Anyway,
Ask away.
Yes.
Hold it along, check my 6 on there.
So I think that's the same. That's the same.
And then maybe
Well, that's just.
update.
Those guys.
And they like the feeling that you're able to do it right again. Because there are some medical.
She's in Sloan Kettering getting some kind of
Does
surgery.
help children and
Well,
it does help.
She expects to be back.
where I was.
Cancers
She has a son
get
living.
the out.
And this.
No, she has one in Manhattan, and he's been in touch, and
They.
sounds like bad news to me, but
See, the thing I have with that
no, no.
is,
And
I don't know how.
I'm sure we'll find out by the way next week.
Okay, when I pulled it out, I would take 4 years off of the joint today. It's
last time she was there, I mean, I said tonight,
Really, it's not seen her.
Because it's that.
I mean, in the morning,
Well,
she was always,
Because they have.
Well, she had a new grandbaby in
Up to that age, what
May.
age to 9, that now, if they can do that,
she's so sick, she thinks of it, it's touching there, so. She's gonna bring down this for so too early, it's not done, we'd be up in time.
What do you want, Stephen?
Oh, I think we were gonna leave that as the organizational chart.
No, maybe a little bit, just let that part out.
All right, let's get this show on the road, you
and
slow
look
down.
at the bottom line. If you don't want your kids, well, and one of the only reasons I think that the organization is moving forward on medication is a lot of our jails have parts to fill up with just marijuana. So they're trying to back off on there.
That's why I was thinking, because I tried to straighten up. Because Daddy has to bring her own pillow now. I didn't know, I'll bring my own pillow. Can I ask you to go over there?
Is there more water? Go way back there.
I can see the feeling.
Another jug of water in the basement?
There's one down into this shop here. I don't know. I can see if I can get out. I can show you. Well, I better looking it up for me.
Oh,
Thanks for what you do.
Kelly will do it.
That's good.
She's busy. Are we ready? Almost.
Is there anyone that didn't get this or can't look right next to the person that got one of these? The police, the double-sided.
We did
I
share.
do, I have a couple extra, that's why I got it. Okay.
Sir?
Everybody got what they need? Are we ready to begin?
The me?
Well,
It's me. For the sake of time, what I'll do is I'll just cover summarize the main points of my budget for 2016, and then if anybody has questions on each line item, fire away, instead of me going over every single one. I don't think that's going to be the most efficient way to do it, but I'm happy to do that, obviously.
and you'll take questions, of course.
And of course, I'll take questions. So my role for 2016 budget is to, I'm still the police chief. And I'm hoping that 2016 will have a new police chief that's going to take over. We had some discussions about how if that person starts tomorrow, let's say, which is not going to happen, but there's still going to be, I'm going to have a significant role in the budget for 2016 just because of training and other reasons, the logistics of getting the new chief hired. So that's why I'm enrolled in this budget as much as I am. I'd like to, ideally it would have been nice to have the new chief, go over the budget with me for this first round, but maybe if that person is hired before deliberative sessions and all that, we can still do that. We can go
That's our
back.
expectation.
Yeah, and that'd be great.
That's our goal.
Yeah, perfect.
And we're moving down the checklist with about as much speed as I think is possible, given all the different players.
So with that said, the budget, I had some conversation with Carol, part of the budget committee, and the committee's goal was to keep each department, from what I understand, at or below 2015 numbers. I don't know, I haven't been here at each meeting to know if that's happening or not. Is it happening? Just a curiosity question?
It's a goal, we've had some that are and some that aren't.
Okay.
Yep.
So, our budget, the police department budget is at the same for 2015. I think it's the first year, correct me if I'm wrong, that we incorporated the police pension, or the second?
Yeah, last year.
It can't be the second year.
Second year.
Second year. But last year, did I have the numbers here, or did we do that
I can't remember whether we did it after the fact or so forth.
Right, but I mean,
I think I went in afterwards and pulled them out.
Okay.
We had started to.
yeah, it was new. So the point I'm trying to make is, the police pension and health insurance, and is it Medicare?
Medicare.
Those three
Yeah.
plans, those are all new to the police budget?
But they were used to be
Yes.
under the other
Correct, they were always in another, place, and I didn't really have those numbers in my field of view to look at, so now I do.
But that really, you didn't have to keep paying much attention to
Correct,
that.
because you provided the numbers. Okay. Just kind of